Okay, so here are the final settings that I used for the for this, where is it, for the wall material. I used the pump with this type, with this noise, blister turbulence. I changed the global scale to 10%, and in the specular layer I set the glossiness to 0.83, the glossiness subdivisions to 38, and I used Fresnel or Fresnel. Basically what it does is, I don't know if I explained it before, but when you have an object in real life and you look at it directly from a 90 degrees angle, the amount of reflections that you're gonna see are not as big compared to when you see the same surface from an angle. So if yeah, let me just create a cinema for the basic material here and show you. This is it. So the reflections in this area of the sphere that is facing you directly with a 90 degrees angle, the reflections there are 0, and the further you go, the more reflections there are. So that's basically the same thing, but in vRay. So I used the Fresnel or Fresnel IOR of 1.2 and just changed the black to this gray color, and the diffuse layer is, well, it's the standard diffuse layer. So let's save, and let's now make a glass material for these chairs. Let's uncheck the diffuse layer and check the refraction layer and the specular layer as well. Let's try this one for now, and let's apply it to the chairs. Let's do a little test render and see how it looks. Okay, yeah, as you can see, it's taken a long time to render, and that's mainly because of the dome light and the subdivisions we set for it. Let's change it to 256 for now. It's gonna be noisy, but I think it might be a bit faster in rendering. Okay, so one thing I want to do to the material of the chairs is add some glossiness. You can see the effect of this here. So you can see how that looks here. But I think that's way too much, keeping in mind that we're gonna have depth of field in the scene, so it's gonna add some blurriness to the chairs. So let's just change it to 0.95 or something, and let's save. For the material of the table, I'm just gonna be lazy and use the same one as the frame here, since it's gonna be out of focus anyways and it's gonna be visible that much. Now let's make a carpet. Let's first save, take a cube, go to the top view and just position it whatever you want it to be. Let's make a new vRay material, but this time let's choose the vRay displace material. Let's assign the material to the cube we just created and change its projection to cubic. Let's just do a test render here to see how it looks. I think the noise is a bit too small, so let's change it to 60% and change the amount of displacement to 3. Let's see now. It's still a bit too small and a bit not, the displacement is not high enough, so 5 here and 70% here, so I think this will do. Now let's create a new another material. So this material that we created just now is for the displacement, and now let's create a material to give a texture to the carpet. So let's just load a carpet texture here, and I think that's it pretty much, just a texture of a carpet, and that'll do. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, otherwise you could have made the cube to be the same dimensions as the carpet here, the same dimensions as this, and it'll be the perfect size, but I think this will work for us. Let's do another test render. Yeah, I think this looks fine. Let's save, and let's now take care of the TV. So let's create a new material, give it a black color, turn on the specular layer, and let's duplicate this material by control clicking and dragging it. Let's create a new one and give this one a bit of blurriness in the reflections. And assign this one to the screen. Let's duplicate this one. Turn off the specular layer and turn on the reflections. And assign this one to the text here. And for the curtains, let's create a new material again. Choose a texture that looks like fabric or something. Okay, so I have this one here. I'll use the same texture for the bump channel, and in the texture map let's click on this arrow and choose filter. We want to change the color of this texture. Okay, I think this will look fine. Let's assign it to the curtain and to the other one. Let's select the materials and change the projection to cubic. they're a bit too big, so let's change the length, the U length and the V length to 60% and 60%. Okay, save. And I can see here that the curtains are going through the floor, so I'm gonna select them and just move them a bit up. Let's turn on the depth of field. Make sure the focus is on the lamp here, so take this middle point and make sure it's here on the lamp, on the bulb. Okay, right click on your camera. In vRay bridge tag, choose vRay physical camera. In the white balance preset, change it to neutral, and the f-stop should be changed to 0.8. In the sampling, turn on depth of field and bokeh effect. For the subdivisions, you can leave them at 6 now, but when you want to do your final render, you should increase this a bit to something like 48 or 32. You can choose a higher number, just as smooth as you want the bokeh or the depth of field to be, but then again your render time will be a lot longer. Let's change the center bias to 0. Basically what this does, if we have a picture of a bokeh effect here, if we set the center bias to 1, the middle of the bokeh, the circular bokeh effects, the middle will be not as bright as the outer side. Okay, so if we set it to 0 as we did right now, it'll be the same brightness all around. Okay, so let's keep that at 0 and let's just do a little test render here. Ooh, these spheres will actually be, we will need to give them a different material than the one we gave to the bulb, because we'll have to increase its luminance by a lot. Okay, so let's just control and drag this material. It'll create another one, and let's just call it spheres, or let's just call it bokeh spheres or something. Okay, let's make sure we select our cloner and we give it this new material. Let's double click on the material, and the luminosity layer, we will need to set this to a very high number, 3000 for instance. Let's save and do a little test render to see. Okay, so here they are, and I think we will need to increase or decrease the f-stop so that we have a more blurry background, because when you the lower the f-stop is, the shallower the depth of field. So when you increase it a lot, your scene will be dark and the depth of field will be less, so the background will be clear and sharp. So we want to set this to a lower value, 0.6 maybe, and to compensate on the brightness that this lower f-stop will bring, we should increase the shutter speed to 350 maybe. Let's try this one. Okay, so here it is. If you don't like the shape of the bokeh effect, you can where is it? Yeah, you can increase the blades, so, or decrease them. Again, it depends on how you want it to look. So I'll set mine to 15, so it'll be more circular, so it doesn't have jagged edges. Okay, I think that looks fine. So let's save. Let's do a test render for the whole canvas. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, we have some weird splotches around our render, uh, and mainly that's because of the render engine we used. No. So I think to fix this, when you want to render, change your rendering preset to a brute force uh, preset. So for instance, brute force medium. The thing is, it will be noisier and will take longer to render, but then again, it will be you know, you won't have any splotches at all. So yeah, that's one way of fixing it. And I also think that our bulb here is not touching the wall. Yeah, it's far from the wall. Okay, so it's good now. So yeah, I think I will change this to I'll change it to brute force and brute force GI. Turn the subdivisions to 64. And yeah, again, you want to change your resolution because the default one is very small. Change it to something like 1280 by 1280. No, 1920 by 1080, or you know, a higher resolution, or you know, whatever you want, and save it as a PSD, as a Photoshop file. And yeah, make sure your if you want it to be clear or not noisy, you might want to increase your subdivisions, and in your HDR you might want to change your subdivisions as well to, you know, something higher. It depends on how fast you want the render to be and how noisier you don't want it to be, basically. So yeah, so I'm gonna render this for now and see you guys in the post-production part, which should not take a lot long, but yeah, see you guys there. Ooh, and one thing I almost forgot. You should probably wait, let me yeah, you should probably, you know, to make your render a bit more professional, we should use the rule of thirds. I advise you to look it up, rule of thirds. There you go. In photography, basically, we split our render or our image to with this grid right here, and we try to put the object that we want to be the center of focus or the center of our image in one of these places, one of these red dots. I advise you to look it up. It'll help you a lot, yeah, and learn a bit about, you know, photography and how cameras work. That'll help you with, you know, using these settings, the film ISO, the f-stop, you know, those kinds of things. So that's what I'm gonna do now, and I'm gonna try to position my lamp or my bulb here in, yeah, as I said, one of these areas. So I'm gonna choose the bottom right and make sure your focus is still in place. I'm not even sure I've changed a lot, but yeah. So now you want to render. Okay, so for the post-production, let's open our file. Let's add a black and white filter, and let's click on this icon and add a gradient map. Reverse these colors. Click on the black and change it to a bit of a gray. This will give our render this washed out effect or film effect. Again, this is totally up to you and how you want your render to look. I think it looks better with a black and white filter, so yeah, you might have a different opinion. So okay, let's add curves, add a point here, and no, we actually want the midtones to, so yeah, just change it like this. Then some color correction with the color balance filter, And let's just add a bit of a blue tint. Just, you know, just a little bit, not too much. Let's create a new layer here and take our brush, change the color to white, increase its size a bit, and just paint like that. Change its mode to soft light and just reduce its opacity. And then again create a new layer above this one. Take your elliptical tool, draw something like this, invert your selection or inverse your selection, invert, and change your color to black and just paint here. Control D to unselect, then filter, blur, Gaussian blur, increase it by a bit. Control T to use the transform tool and just increase it a bit. Create a new layer again, zoom in here, and with your white brush just a little bit of glow. Let's add what is it? A brightness and contrast filter. Let's increase the contrast. Of course, this will make the rest of our image dark, but we wanted to just affect this part of our render. So click on your mask, and in your fill tool, make sure you have a black color. Then fill in your mask. And now with a brush, change it to white. Now whatever we paint is where the contrast that we set will be, will be visible. So we just want to bring out these bokeh things a bit. Yeah, so I think that's it. Our render is a bit dark, but yeah, it's up to you. You can make it lighter, you can add sun, it depends on how you want your render to look. And again, this series of tutorials is not about getting this type of result or this result in this result exactly, but just to show you how to do certain things in Cinema 4D and vRay, so you can create your own stuff with your own touch. So yeah, I hope you like the series. Again, I apologize for the late uploads. So yeah, see you guys in the next one. Oh, and if you have any suggestions for tutorials you want to see, so please feel free to comment them in the comment section of the video. I will be more than happy to make a tutorial. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and peace.